This week, more of Jack Kirby's 1970s work as Emmet and I discuss Captain America and the Falcon 204 and 205. A corpse comes to life and claims to be someone named Agron from the future. It's certainly not Kirby's best Cap story, but it still has its highlights, including the most t-shirt-worthy panel you'll see. First, I'd like to thank our patrons for helping to keep the show going. You can pitch in by pledging at least $2 a month at patreon.com/deconcomics. This is Tim.
This is Emmet.
And this is Deconstructing Comics. Welcome to Deconstructing Comics. This is Tim in Tokyo with Emmet in country Victoria, Australia. Hello?
Yeah. Thanks, Tim. Thanks for having me.
Last time we thought we would cover 5 issues of Captain America and the Falcon. Nope, too much for one episode.
Foolish.
So we did 3, and here are the other 2. This is Captain America and Falcon 204 and 205 we're talking about today, from the end of 1976. And cover of 204 shows this big muscular being with solid yellow gold eyes saying, "Agron walks the earth, and with each step I take, I grow stronger." And in front of him, we see Cap and Falcon amidst a bunch of rubble. Looks like they've just been beaten up by Agron. And caption, "Crushed by the unliving enemy."
Yeah, and I was just looking at this Agron character, and I was aware of I seen that distinctive face and eyebrow tuft before. And my guess is Tor Johnson, who I think is most famous now for being in Ed Wood's Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Okay.
And he was in a bunch of schlock sci-fi horror movies back in the day, 1950s, 1960s. And, you know, the Agron storyline does involve a certain, you know, familiar trope of those kinds of movies at one point. So I reckon Jack Kirby had too much cheese one night and he stayed up watching, like, cable television. You had cable back then, didn't you? And,
yeah, a little bit in the 70s.
Late night television. Let's just call it late night television. Midnight movies. And he caught some Ed Wood picture, and here we are. Agron, the unliving enemy.
Now, this one, I can't seem to construct any reason why it had to be a Captain America story. Can you?
I think I would be breaking my arm if I did. I think I would be. I think you put that question to me last time, and I gave this impassioned defense because, you know, it relates to the idea of Captain America as a symbol where it came to Zero Street and everything. I don't think the same applies here. I think it's a yarn, and that's fine. You know, there's always room for a yarn. And the events of this comic followed directly on from the events of the previous comic. So it's kind of like, well, this is what happened to Captain America the next day.
Yeah, there's a lot of overlap in these two.
But as far as the nature of the story, yeah, this could be anything. This could be a Spider-Man story. This could be a Nick Fury story. This could be... this could be a Howard the Duck story. You know, really lean into the Tor Johnson stuff with that Howard the Duck story. This could be Amigo to the Unknown. I don't know. Like, just go for it. Could be anything.
All right. So on the first page, we're in S.H.I.E.L.D.'s psychiatric section, and I've already forgotten the names here. Brother Wonderful and the Inquisitor.
Yes.
From the Night People are talking with the Doctor, and he wants them to cooperate and help explain what methods they used on Falcon and Layla, this shock treatment, but they're not so willing to to comply.
Yeah, and I find it kind of sweet in a way because they're refusing because they're saying, well, if we reverse the procedure, he'll become unknown to us. He will no longer be their brother. There is something kind of sweet about that. It's abusive and horrible, and they basically broke the man's brain as well as his partner, who everyone insisted on referring to as a woman. So that was horrible. But I think I'll take this opportunity. The last time we recorded, Tim, we finished, and then I was, oh, damn it, I meant to mention this Philip K. Dick story. I'll throw it in here.
Okay.
Philip K. Dick's The Clans of the Alphane Moon, which is a short story about a colony on the moon, and then pardon for the spoilers, folks, but I genuinely encourage you to read this book. It's one of my favorite Philip K. Dick books. The reveal is that all the people on the settlement represent a different psychiatric condition. So the paranoids hang out with the paranoids, the schizophrenics hang out with the schizophrenics, the kleptomaniacs hang out with the kleptomaniacs. There's these tribes based around their diagnosis. They've evolved into this society. And there was a single line in that previous issue where one of the brothers made mention of, oh, well, that's how you feel because that you're a paranoid. And I think Jack Kirby's read this book. It was probably a dime store novel that he could just pick up. I don't think he was jonesing for Phil K. Dick. I think it was just a book he read. And it just felt very reminiscent of that book. And this is not Emmet accuses someone of ripping off Jack Kirby. Clans of the Alphane Moon came out long before 1976. We're clear on that one. But
okay.
It just sort of brought to life these characters a bit for me. I do feel they're very interesting. And as I said to you, I was very surprised to learn that they haven't reoccurred. I think you said Brother Wonderful comes back as like Mad Scientist number 2.
Something like that, yeah.
But like the idea of this society of former inmates in a psychiatric asylum becoming a society is really interesting, and it's just a shame nobody else has touched it. Perhaps because it's so reminiscent of Philip K. Dick. I don't know, but that was the parallel I drew.
I see. Okay. So these two guys are accusing Cap of kind of busting up their good thing, and removing Falcon from their ranks, calling him a deceiver, an outsider. You came among us and caused havoc to reign. For shame. And shock treatment would have helped you too, but no, you wouldn't have it our way.
Look at Cap's face.
Eye rolling, yeah. Yes, I know. I'm sorry about that, he says.
Then put this one in the Emmet wants this on a t-shirt.
Yeah,
just isolated, just the face, and yes, I know. I'm sorry about that.
Well, later in the story, there's my t-shirt. I'll point it out when we get there.
We'll get to it.
And then a couple of burly male nurses, as the caption says, come in and gently escort the two of them out. Let's go to have dinner. And we don't see them again in this story. So now Cap is talking with Dr. Hartman, who's trying to figure out what was done to Falcon and Layla so he can undo it. Then he's going to show Cap another case he says it would frighten an exorcist. Yes.
So we think we're being set up for a different kind of B movie than what we get.
So he shows Cap this guy who is in a cell with a window in the door so they can see him. And he has no pulse or heartbeat. He seems to be dead, but he's animated. He moves and seems to have... It's as if the being inside doesn't know how to use the body. And Cap is just like, what are you talking about? This doesn't make any sense. I can't believe this. You're out of your mind, Doc. Sorry. Something to that effect. Yeah, Cap's not buying it. But the doctor goes on to say it seems as if Agron, as he calls himself, is a native of Earth's far distant future. Cap says, so he thinks he's a time traveler, eh? I suppose he must have read one science fiction book too many. Poor dude. Since when does Cap use the word dude?
Just in the 70s, man.
I guess. So, well, as you suggested, maybe it was Kirby who read one science fiction book too many.
Yeah. I think we've talked this many times, but I really am getting an appreciation for Kirby being just an omnivore when it comes to all kinds of reading. Like, he's just taking it all in. So, I can see him just devouring whatever he can get his hands on.
So they watch Agron for a few more panels, but Cap is kind of skeptical of the explanation that this is a time traveler animating a dead body.
Yeah, it's funny because we do have this caption. Cap finds himself on a wash in a sea of weird sensations. He tears himself away from the inmate's door. So there's the implication that he is experiencing some sort of weirdness, like apprehension. But he proceeds to behave in a very ignorant manner for the rest of this issue to set up the events of the next issue. But this does kind of... Well, I guess we'll get to it when we get to the next issue. I'm very confused at the timeline of events when it comes to Agron. Like, okay. I feel... Okay, there's an established relationship between Agron and what's happening, what does unfold. But then how all of those elements came together in the first place, I'm a little lost. We'll get to it.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I have a question about Agron that's not answered in the story also. So Cap and the doctor go to see Falcon, and Cap is shocked to see that Falcon's in a straitjacket, but the doctor says that he refused to take off his costume, which enables him to fly, and they were afraid he was just going to fly out the door. So they put a straitjacket on him.
Yeah, it's quite an upsetting image too. Just this guy strapped up in his cell. Oops. Pardon me. Cat cameo. Yeah. But yeah, it's a very upsetting sequence for Cap. But it's all, again, this set of issues, they're pretty thin. So all of that is just to justify what's about to happen. That's what it's really about. So, well, Cap, if we take off his costume, he won't be able to fight in the next scene. That's what's happening.
Yeah. We switch back to Agron, and a couple of S.H.I.E.L.D. employees come in with some food for him, but they're not convinced that he even eats, since he seems to be a dead body.
A dead body who walks and talks and flaps his arm around.
Yeah. And then Agron gets violent with them and knocks the food all over the place and knocks the orderlies all over the place.
Requisite Holy Toledo.
Holy Toledo, he's become violent. Then we switch back to Cap, who is in costume, riding with Sharon, who's driving. Sharon's also in costume as a hippie. The leopard print headband seems a little passé by late 76, I would say.
Yeah, she's like a Cohen Telpro agent. She's gonna go report on some union activists in the next scene. She's going to plant drugs on some upcoming political candidate who just really wants to raise equal rights. So she's going to make sure they go to jail for a long time.
Disguised as a teenager from 1969.
Yes.
And of course, it's the same conversation we saw in the previous issue where she's saying he should retire. He's done his duty many times over, and now he should relax and let somebody else take care of it. But of course, Cap has the sense of responsibility, and he's not willing to drop it for somebody else to do. He has to do this. He has to beat up supervillains and protect the U.S.
But he's such a whinger about it as well. Like he's like sunk into the passenger chair like a teenager, and like he's going, "Oh please, Sharon, let's not beat that dead horse again. This is my bag. I gotta stay in it." Like, he's such a brat.
So they get out of the car and they're walking around, and for a few panels it's pretty pleasant, and they got their arms around each other and kissing, but he continues to resist the idea of retiring, and then she finally just loses her temper. Then keep on supplying it, muscles. When you get tired of fighting, give me a buzz, but don't be too sure that I'll be there to answer the phone. And he says, Sharon, wait, don't run off before you hear me out. Sharon. What, she going to leave him there by the side of the road?
Pretty much.
If you don't want to retire, then walk home.
Walk home. That's why it takes him so long to come back into the story.
I guess. So, meanwhile, Agron's running rampant. The psych ward is a mess of broken pieces of wood and stuff. He's tossing all the burly guys around like nothing. And then, of course, some security guards come in with rifles, machine guns, some kind of guns, shooting at him. It has no effect because he's dead. So, so he keeps walking because he's dead. And as they're about to run out of ammo, then he suddenly seems tired and just falls down. And they don't think that shooting him had that effect. It was something else that caused him to seem to kind of pass out. And the doctor comes in and he's examining the body and thinks, can it be that Agron is resting, growing stronger? Well, since you brought it up, then the answer is yes.
Yes, that's exactly what it is, yes.
So he orders that Agron should be put in the mortuary and secured to the operating table with steel restraints. I'm sure they have steel restraints just lying around in the mortuary. They need them there all the time. Cap is in a hotel.
Watching a science fiction movie.
A hotel room somewhere in the city, yes, watching an old science fiction movie.
I do want to imagine the scene. Cap walks all the way from the countryside back into the city, covered in road dust, wearing his uniform still, walks into the first hotel he finds. Ding, ding, ding. Excuse me, young man, I need a room. Oh, sure, Cap. How will you be paying for that this evening? Charge to the government. Because he's wearing a robe in this. I do believe he doesn't have any clothes.
Yeah, that may be. Maybe he didn't have any luggage. Just maybe it's probably a hotel robe.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Too small for him, probably.
Courtesy robe. And we've got this poetic caption here, and it does sort of suggest to me cheese dreams, which is time flows by like a sluggish stream as fabricated images dance for attention on beams of light, but the conflicts which plague the mind never leave, never diminish, never unravel. And, you know, this whole comic is Jack Kirby trying to meet a deadline, stays up late watching science fiction movies. Okay, that's the story. I'll just take one of these stupid movies, and that's the story. Why does the corpse walk and talk? Who cares? Let's figure it out later.
So, of course, he's thinking mostly about Sharon here. And so when the phone rings, he assumes it's Sharon. But, of course, it's not. It's Dr. Hartman saying that the Agron situation is getting worse. And Cap is just like, I'll stand by, Doc. It's the best I can do right now. Good night.
Yeah.
And
this is where like the Sharon storyline is creating an unnecessary conflict, because I think the implication is that she's got in his head a bit, and that's why he doesn't rush into action.
Yeah.
And I think that's bull. Like, he just, the character comes off poorly here because he decides not to bother helping. That's what we see happen.
Yeah.
And then later on, it's like, oh, I gotta leap to help. So, yeah, you had your chance.
Dr. Hartman says, why, this is incredible. There's never been a time when Captain America has failed to respond to an emergency. And the background's filled with Kirby Crackle, so something's going to happen. And there's a security guard there, too. Agron comes in and just slugs both of them. Wham! And Agron has now become super muscular. He's been working out, apparently. Building up the muscles in the dead body.
I did notice that, yeah, his muscle mass increased, yeah. So this is where the Tor Johnson resemblance really comes in. But yeah, he's it's like we'll get to what Agron actually is, but yeah, it took a while to figure out all the parts.
Now Agron wants to get out of there, so he's just breaking down walls to get out. The security guard says, we can't let him break out of the complex, Doc. He's a disaster in the making. I doubt if a squad of superheroes could stop him. And the doctor realizes they have a superhero there, Falcon. So he's going to go release Falcon.
But Hartman, he said squad of superheroes. Squad.
The next page, he goes and frees Falcon. And, of course, Falcon is still brainwashed, but...
Just quickly before we get back to Falcon, just the panel of Hartman running down the hallway and running past security guards and running past the other orderlies, and they're all looking panicked and they're all cocking their rifles ready to go. It's a great little panel. Like there's a nice amount of movement there. There's a lovely expression on all the faces. It's a nice, just incidental. This is how he got from this point to this point, but like it works actually.
It's interesting, though, that Dr. Hartman is running from right to left.
Yeah.
Usually you have running in the direction that the reader is reading.
Going against the tide, because everyone else is going to the action. He's fleeing the action.
Yeah, that's true.
But you're right. That's a good observation. I think this is like a little mini painting of Kirby art and action. Sorry.
So he has to point out to Falcon that his band of brothers and sisters are also endangered by Agron. So if that's the case, then Falcon will fight Agron. And so he flies off to do that. And so we see him flying through the psych ward as security guards are being thrown towards Falcon. And when he arrives, he punches Agron. He's flying around him. And the last row here, it says, to close with such an adversary is a traumatic experience, but the Falcon's fist explodes outward with savage speed. It happens suddenly before the Falcon's very eyes, causing him to scream in horror. It's a two-parter, friends, a far-out theater of the weird. But if you dare, next issue, fear comes striding. Okay.
I'm calling it deadline push. Just gets at the door. I mean, I really feel bad for Falcon with this story and the previous story because we've had him brainwashed for the majority of those issues. And he's continually been flung at these oversized opponents, either rock monsters or Agron. And each time he's sort of shown to put on a good display, but he gets punched out.
Yeah.
He gets cracked each time. And yeah, it's just, I feel like he's being jobbed. He's being sort of put in the corner a bit. Wait for Captain to turn up. Which, is usually what happens to the Robin in a storyline. But the Falcon was never Captain America's Robin. I think that was Stan Lee's idea, but I came to Falcon like later as a kid, and I always thought he was the coolest. I always thought he was the coolest character. He looks cool. He's got this great costume, and he's got a talking bird, and he can fly. He's got all these cool like aspects to him, and just seeing him getting smacked out issue after issue is really beginning to wear me down.
Coming up, feeling sorry for Falcon, Cap has hecklers, and the panel I want on a t-shirt. By the way, don't forget to check us out on Blue Sky. We're at Decon Comics. This podcast is part of the Deconstructing Comics Network, where we're grateful to our supporters on Patreon. Patrons get exclusive extra content. At $2 a month and up, hear Bat Bits, a Batman 66 exploration with my brother Paul. At $4 a month, you also get our new monthly show Silver Age Batman, where I discuss Batman comics from the 50s and 60s with either Paul, Patrick, Emmet, or Kumar, as well as our previous series on Jim Starlin's run on Captain Marvel and the first 50 issues of Amazing Spider-Man by Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, and John Romita. Check it out at patreon.com/deconcomics. And thanks for your support.
You like cheap comic books, right? Well, I'm Professor Allen, and I talk about cheap comic books on the Quarterbin podcast. In every episode, I'll dissect a single comic from my collection, as long as I paid no more than 25 cents for the issue. Forget about $4 new comics that you can read in 4 minutes, or crossover events that can cost $100 to collect. Join me in the Quarterbin, where even bad comics are a bargain, and good ones are a steal. The Quarterbin podcast is part of the Relatively Geeky Podcast Network. Visit us at relativelygeekypodcast.blogspot.com or search Relatively Geeky or Quarterbin Podcast in iTunes. I guarantee it'll be worth every penny.
So, issue 205. So we see Cap and Falcon being pursued by a Kirby Crackle octopus.
Yeah. So I did a quick cursory search before we started talking, because I was just trying to figure out, is there a specific reference here? And I can't really find one. I guess Forbidden Planet, you've got the invisible electrical monster alien. That could be a reference here. He looks a bit like the traditional depiction of the Martians from War of the Worlds. I mean, that, they look like brains on tentacles. That could be what's inspired Agron here. But because I'm really digging in on this, Kirby stayed up too late one night, watched science fiction movies, and we got this story. I'm convinced there's a specific monster type that this energy version of Agron is a stand-in for. But I need to watch more Mystery Science Theater 2000 or something to track it down, because I can't think of it offhand.
Cap says, "There's no way to fight this thing," and Falcon says, "Then the city is doomed." Doomed is all in red letters.
Doomed.
And we've got Cityscape in the background. So we pick up where we left off. Falcon is saying, "What is this thing? What is it? Ah!" And there's Kirby Crackle around Falcon's arm.
Yeah, it's terrifying. That's a terrifying first page, because it looks like his arm's been dissolved in energy. Like, it's scary as.
The next page is a full-page panel of Agron saying, "I am Agron. This time period must become my own. I shall not be ousted from this century." And he's surrounded in Kirby Crackle, and he's got like red light coming from his mouth. So, yeah, sure enough, on the next page, Falcon gets punched out.
Yep.
Thrown through the room. He's colored like the Human Torch. As he's flying through the air, and crashes into more wood furniture that breaks apart. Must be a lot of shelves in this room or something.
Yeah, I was reading. I I think for this podcast, we covered a comic by, is it Anne Growl? Groulx, one of her comics. But I was reading one of her books, and she had a couple of characters, skater kids, debating over, I guess, a spread page, 2-page spread, how Lieutenant Worf from Star Trek Next Generation is a useless character because every time you want to demonstrate how tough somebody is, he gets punched out. It's an old argument, but I love that the characters in this comic book really go in on it because they're like, no, let's have this out. Like, no, seriously, he's useless. Like, I want him to be cool, but he's not. And I kind of, that's my problem with Falcon here. Like, he just keeps getting punched, and that demonstrates to the reader, oh wow, this is serious this time. Oh no, we're in trouble now. Falcon just got punched out.
Of course, it doesn't mean that Falcon can't fight. It just means that everybody's stronger than him. Security guards try throwing a grenade at Agron. Agron says, useless, your weapons are too primitive.
A quick apology once again, Tim, for the benefit of the listener. I was confused. It was Nicole Growl. Nicole Goo. G-O-U-X.
Oh yeah, Nicole Goo. Yeah, I know what you're talking about now.
Sorry. The book was Fuck Off Squad. That's the name of the book.
I interviewed her for a different book that I covered with Jason, I think. It's escaping me. It was like something about social media.
There we go. And anyway, I think the one we did was the one about the dog pet peeves.
Yeah, we talked about that too.
Yeah. And everyone is a tulip. Is that the one about social media?
Tulip. Yeah. Everyone's tulip. That's the one I'm thinking of.
Apologies for the digression, folks. I just wanted to give Goo that shout out, and then I messed it up.
Agron just wants to get out. He's breaking down walls and escaping. They're still shooting at him, as useless as that gesture is. Now, Dr. Hartman gets on this closed-circuit telescreen and is talking with Captain Dawson, who's been analyzing data that was sent to him, and he says, we got some astounding mind pictures from the encephalotape you developed of his brain waves.
Okay, so I wanted to talk about this. So this sequence here, the interaction between Hartman and Captain Dawson, is another example of that thing we've been picking up on with Kirby, which is he keeps imagining stuff that are quite advanced of his time that we now look at and go, oh yeah, that's pretty everyday. But he was ahead of the curve on a lot of the stuff. So the sequence where he's talking about, oh yeah, we've got a read of what this creature has seen because we were able to crunch the data and we've been able to visualize the data. He's referring to it as brain waves, mind pictures, encephalotape. But, the idea is that basically they have a trace of the energy's memories through data, and they've interpreted that data into a visual medium, and then they have this vision of the future. And I'm going, this is fantastic. Like, it's just a great little detail, and it's Kirby, again, imagining, well, what is the technology capable of? Well, I think it would be capable of this. It's just his terminology sounds silly to us because he's using different words, but those words didn't exist.
Yeah, encephalotape.
Yeah, he's made up this stuff. But effectively what it is it's a data stream from this energy creature that they've visualized. That's it. And it's bloody brilliant. Like, I really like it. Doesn't really lead to anything. There's no sequence where people will talk about how amazing this technology is. It's a, by the way, here you go. They did this. But as a result of it, they're able to confirm that Agron is a creature from the far future. And they actually get to see what the Earth looks like in the moments before its destruction. And
right.
That's what we're...
Looks like a hellscape or like just volcanoes and stuff. And the moon is about to collide with Earth. It's looming huge in the sky. And we see Agron as the Kirby Crackle octopus. What's not explained here is how he traveled to the 20th century.
Exactly.
It just kind of happened.
Exactly. So I got confused by that. So is it that, okay, so what I was really confused by is we see Agron, a sort of diminished version of Agron, which maybe is relevant to what occurred, inhabit the body that we now know as Agron. And my question was, well, why did they have that body in the first place? So in some unnamed mortuary, he has also found a body to inhabit. Like, okay. And then okay, and what happened there? It's sort of it's a by the way, this is how this led to this. But I just had this moment of, well, why this body? Was there any significance to that? Probably not. It's just incidental. But you're right. In terms of the actual traveling back in time, is it that because Agron is made of energy, he basically tuned into a frequency of time and just skipped back in time? We don't know. It doesn't get explained.
Yeah.
I'm doing more work.
I think he chose this body because it was bald.
There you go.
That's
perfect explanation.
Yeah, I mean, if he had like an afro, it just wouldn't have the same effect.
It would have been offensive, Tim. Yeah, this poor eyeless body. It was literally a decaying corpse. Why is it still in the mortuary? If it's in that state of decay, why is this?
Yeah, they've been procrastinating burying the body, I guess.
Just there was a couple of things just didn't add up to me, but we get that cool reveal of him sitting up in the mortuary with his now hollow eyes, just the caked red substance from behind where his eyes used to be peering out. It's gross when you think about it for even a split second, but it's this is where we are.
So people are still shooting at Agron. I guess if something doesn't work, just keep doing it anyway, because they don't know what else to do. The womb panel where guys and guns are just flying everywhere. That's my T-shirt.
Oh, that's amazing. You're right. That's really cool.
So much power in it. Just people are just flying all over the place.
That's really good. And I love that one of them had a rocket launcher. He was going to shoot a rocket launcher at 10 feet range in the street. Let's just go. Let's just see what happens. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's pretty good.
So we go back to Steve Rogers in the hotel, and the hotel has targeted a message to his TV. Not sure if that was possible.
You interrupted my stories.
Oh, yeah, the science fiction movie.
I was watching my stories.
What? The TV screen's gone blank. It's a shield flash meant for me. The TV says, "This is a red alert. The Agron case is out of control. Your help is requested." He says, "Well, I'll be darned."
So you're right. We've gone from, dude, that's not my bag. This attempt at hippieism to, well, I'll be darned. Well, shuck, jeez. Holy Jehoshaphat, I gotta get on the horn to shield.
Gee, Beeve, I didn't think Agron was such a big deal, but...
Yeah.
So he puts his costume on.
Which is his only clothes.
And, yeah, because he didn't have any other clothes. He doesn't even have an undershirt. Just put it on over his skin. And he thinks, my problem with Carol will have to wait. It seems I've underrated the gravity of this Agron keeper. Yeah. Understatement of the year.
He's such a jerk.
So he's suiting up here. Now, I thought it was interesting on the next page that Kirby gives us several panels of Cap traveling towards the action. It kind of builds the tension, I think. And he's thinking, I'm almost there, but what will I do when I close with him?
Yeah, you've got the idea that all these city buildings are quite close together, so he can leap from rooftop to rooftop. He's sort of gaining speed as he goes. He can see the Agron energy signature in the distance, so he knows where to go. Yeah, it's just a sense of Captain America in the city. He understands the city's geography. It's a nice little sequence of movement. I noticed it too. I thought it was quite a. He's spending the time showing us this for a reason. Mm-hmm. So we know that the anticipation of Captain America joining the fight.
Yeah, and the last two panels on the page, Cap is coming up behind Agron, who doesn't see him, and he's jumping at him and thinks, here goes everything. But for that, I think the next page could have used a larger panel of him jumping Agron.
Yeah, you're right. It's anticlimax. You know, we build. He jumps and then he immediately gets flipped over, and he hits some boxes, the requisite boxes that are always nearby to cushion your landing.
Everything's made of wood in this universe, I think. So, right, he jumps, he gets thrown, he crashes, he lets the shield take most of the impact, and he gets back up and runs at Agron again.
I apologize. We're told textually that it was a fence. He was hurled bodily through a fence. Okay, sorry. It wasn't a box this time.
But yeah, there's plenty of wood everywhere. And so he goes after Agron again, and a crowd gathers. And no matter how many times Cap says, go home, you guys, it's too dangerous, they just stand there and gawk and make comments.
They make fun of him. They're like, what are you picking on that zombie for? There must be classier bad guys around. They are like lemming-like in their lack of survival skills.
Hey, Cap, you lost your steam? Because Cap's punches don't have much effect. So, yeah, but they probably deserve to get hit by Agron, but they don't. He tosses Cap into traffic, and so he's dodging cars for a few panels. He gets up and goes to jump over an oncoming car, and then suddenly Falcon swoops in and grabs him, and Falcon's back to normal. He says, I regained my memory thanks to this dude, Agron, but I sure don't like his method. This is the Gilligan's Island logic here. Like apparently just getting hit by Agron. Oh, now I'm cured. Yeah, I'm cured of my amnesia.
Like a lifetime of bad media inspired by that trope. Just hit him really hard. Don't come out of it.
So now they're using teamwork on him. Falcon flying in high, Cap going low. And that's a little bit effective. But then Agron starts zapping them with I-beams. And some, shield guys have come in with this big tube. And they need Cap and Falcon to lure Agron into the tube so they can trap him.
Yeah, but I guess, I don't know, is there an actual line of dialogue here that explains this? But I was confused because it only became clear later what they need them to lure into the tube is the energy version of Agron, not the body. Mm-hmm. Because the body is actually allowing him to sustain damage and keep going. Whereas the energy version of him can be contained. So that's what they need them to do. So, but nobody specifically says that.
No.
But that's ultimately what this is.
The guy says Agron must be lured from that body and into this tube.
Got it.
So, yeah, I think it is explicit.
All right. Good luck with that, folks.
Well, because it's the end of the issue, the plan has to work.
Yeah, now the plan has to work.
So Cap and Falcon decide that he shoots energy from his eyes, so let's concentrate on his eyes. And hitting him in the face with the shield and punching him in the face again and again. And this causes Agron to decide to abandon the corpse and go after them in energy octopus form. And immediately chases Falcon into the tube and they trap him in there. Agron, not Falcon. Because it's the last page and it's not continued, so it has to work. And Falcon says, we're still in business. Cap says, and doing fine, partner. Lock up for lunch.
He gives him the peace sign. Cap gives Falcon the peace sign, which
because it's the 70s.
I mean, Cap could say, well, actually, it's the V for victory sign. I'm doing Winston Churchill. But, either way. Put that in a t-shirt. It's sort of just, fumbles the landing as comics go. It's sort of last page. All right, yeah, as you say, it's, all right, well, it had to work because it had to work.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt a little unsure that Agron would really cooperate so readily. Sure, I'll get out of this body. Sure, I'll chase you into this tube. Oops.
Yeah. And meanwhile, again, I'm just imagining this poor, what about the relatives of this poor corpse? You saying Matt Timmy tore up the whole city? I thought he was dead.
Oh, he is.
Oh, he's quite dead.
And the last panel says, do you honestly think that all their problems have been solved? How poorly you estimate the sinister side of fate. The swine is coming.
God, the swine. Let's have a look at the swine.
Yeah, the swine? I'm not sure I'm pulled in by that concept, but the villain is the swine, apparently.
The answer, folks, is a Nazi. It's a Nazi.
Oh, I see. Is Schweinhund?
Schwein. Yeah, it's a Schwein. Yeah, this was a bit of a letdown. As a comic, it was a bit of okay. Despite the fact that there are things in it I enjoyed, like the goofiness of the concept, the sort of sci-fi B-moviness of it, that lovely little sequence.
The T-shirt.
Yep. T-shirt moments, some great T-shirt moments. And that bit about the encephalotape, that just really excited me, because I was thinking, Jack Kirby's on his futurism kick once again. That stuff was fun, but overall the story was just and that happened on Tuesday, I guess. It's a shame.
Yeah. Okay, so that finishes the Bicentennial Battles trade, but we'll keep going on Cap here for a while. The issues we discussed in this episode are available in the Captain America Bicentennial Battles trade paperback from Marvel. At deconstructingcomics.com, you can connect to us on X, Facebook, YouTube, and Blue Sky, and find links to subscribe to the podcast. You can comment on any episode on our site, drop us a line at mail@deconstructingcomics.com, or talk to us. Click the Leave a Voicemail link in the left sidebar on our site. Are you making a comic? Send it to us and we'll do a Critiquing Comics episode about it. Our theme is by J.B. Anderton. The music backing our promotion of our Patreon is Change by Jazar. Brianna Lowenson, who got a lot of praise 2 years back for her graphic memoir Ephemera, is back with a new book, Raised by Ghosts. It's a slightly fictionalized look at Brianna's teen years, acting as both a time capsule of late 20th century teenager culture and the struggles of being comfortable with oneself that are almost synonymous with the word teenager. Next week, I'll talk with Brianna about her new book, and then Jason will join me to review it. That's next week. Till then, this is Tim, and thanks for listening to Deconstructing Comics.